if I was saying something to young coaches, that's something I would tell them. Do not be scared to be real and tell them, hey, I could have done better. Don't just always point a finger at the players, because we all know as coaches, there's times where we mess up, we make mistakes. If I had something to do with it, I'll tell them, I shouldn't have done that. But hey, we all in this together, guys.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head boys basketball coach at Randall High School, Leslie Broadhurst. Coach Broadhurst is entering his 42nd year of coaching, 37 as a high school coach. He opened Randall High School in 1988 and has a career record of 667 wins and 431 losses. Coach Broadhurst has led the Raiders to 4 district titles and 8 regional tournament appearances. Last year, they made it to the state tournament for the first time in school history. Coach Broadhurst served as TABC president in 1995-1996. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. Thank you. So I love that wall behind you. That's got to be the wall.
Got all of our pictures from the 35 years here are back here, and then in the hall out here we've got the big ones with the 5x7s of each player and the teams. So yeah, it's been. I'm an old guy. I've been here a long time, man. I remember when Tommy Thomas is an old friend of mine, and now you just graduated when they went to state, didn't you?
That's right. Yep. Bracy and Darren William, they were sophomores when I was a senior.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good crew right there. Who beat y'all that year?
Coach. You know what's funny is you tell players that they will remember these moments and that it does mean something, and you wonder, but I mean that was over 20 years ago, and it still stings. We were ranked second in state at that point. Had a lot of, I actually had a chance to talk to Darren a year or two ago, and he even said that the team his sophomore year with us as seniors was better than when he was a junior. But see, they were just so good when they were him and Bracy and Bam, when they were juniors and seniors, but they made the run. Anyway, Mansfield beat us in the second round. They dyed their hair blonde, the whole team, as a sign of unity, and we just overlooked them in a kind of a perfect storm. Didn't play well. They played great, but that's still it bugs me. And I don't know if that'll leave, man.
Yeah, I understand. I've had some of those myself.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for giving up your time it's a Friday afternoon when you and I, and most coaches and most people are going home and ready for the weekend. You and I get to talk some hoops, but this is an honor for me because one, I love getting to talk hoops with coaches, but like you said, 35 years, you helped to open. You were the first coach when the school opened in 1988. 35 years, and then all of those teams behind you, and then the way that this year went for you, you made that trip to the Final Four, to the state tournament. So thank you for everything and for coming on today with me.
Oh man, I appreciate you. I've never got to visit with you that much, but I respect you, and I know you're a good, strong believer, and I respect that about you as much as anything. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Coach. Well, I got to ask, kind of after that great season that you had, what's life like right now for you?
Man, we're still rolling. These guys are out here running pickup games right now as we speak. It's it's an interesting thing. Our motto. I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but motto this year was "Down by the River." We came up with that last year and put a picture of the Alamo Dome and a picture of the river in San Antonio, and we got it everywhere. We got it on shirts, everything, and we stayed with that. And we got down there, and we actually have 9 of our 12 guys back for next year and 4 starters back. So when we got back from the state tournament, it was spring break the next week, and we were off. And then that Monday when we came back, I said, "Let's go," and everybody said, "Coach, we want to get down there again, and we want to do this again and play in the championship game." So we started working out, and they got a week. They said spring break week off. That's enough. Let's go. And so we're trying to get better, stronger, and you know how it is, the grind. You coach, so it's fun to have a group of guys though that really want to work. You know, there's teams where you have to prod them along, and this team is not that way at all. Like I said, it's Friday, and a lot of teams we have wouldn't be here. School's out, and they've got pickup games going right now. So special group of guys, man. It's been a lot of fun.
I was just wondering if you've had a lot of teams like that. Now, obviously, this one is unique with, I mean, they were real, once you're actually down there, they tasted it. They have an idea of what it feels like now. I bet you got to love the fact that they didn't want more time off, that they were, maybe you wanted more time, but they were ready to go. You know, they were ready to get working. But have you always had teams like that? Or, you know, maybe depending on how many guys you graduated, how many have coming back that were big time contributors. How has that worked for you over the years?
Well, you know, this is a great school, and we've got a special culture here where we haven't in the past had just unbelievable athletes. We've had good athletes who are good basketball players. I wouldn't say it's off the chart athleticism, but we've got some good ones right now that are pretty good athletes. So we've kind of changed some things actually this year. But through the years, and you may know this, you may not, but it's a long time ago, 97, 98, 99, 2000. We went to the regional finals 4 years in a row and never made it.
Oh, wow.
And, 1 year Crowley beat us, they won state. 1 year Denton Ryan beat us, they won state. We just had a run there, and I can remember those guys coming back and saying, you know, "Coach, let's get to work." And so we've just kind of done it that way. We really haven't taken much time off. I'm a guy that just I don't have a whole lot other than my wife, my family, and hoops, you know, and I like hanging out at the gym. So these guys are kind of fitting in the mold, and I hope that we're working on some things that Faith Family exposed. You know, you can't teach size, which is, you know,
hard to replicate that in practice, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we've had some good working kids, and I think that's one of the things that's made us competitive through the years. And just we got great kids, great parents, and a great school. You know, I'll tell this story to a lot of people. My dad was a pastor, and when I was a kid, we moved around a lot. I went to high school in Lubbock at Monterey. But before that, we lived in smaller towns, Freona, Borg, different towns up here. And we'd move every 3 or 4 years. And so I asked my dad when I took this job, I had coached 6 years, one as a head coach, and then the other 5 as an assistant before this. And I asked him, what's your recommendation? What's the number one thing you want to tell me starting this job? And he said, "This is a great school. It's brand new." He said, "If I were you, I would just sit in there, and a real coach can coach through everything. You know, you're going to have up years, you're going to have down years, but just build a program and be who you are and try to develop kids and help kids." And, you know, it's kind of a ministry here where you just feel like this is our program. This is the way we do things. These are our expectations. And these kids just buy in, and I just have so much fun. I'm 64 years old, and I'm having more fun than I did when I was 34 years old. So it's a blast.
You know, one thing I loved about Coach Thomas, and he opened the Colony, and so he was there, and then then Coach Ryan took over. So that school has only had 2 coaches, and that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
But not many, in your shoes. Been in faith for 10 years. And probably like you, I've never said that this is the only place that I'm ever going to coach, but I'm also content, and I'm okay with being faithful in this place as long as God wants me here. I have no problem staying and not going anywhere. But I guess the question, how do you, because like you said, you're going to have good years and bad years, and how do you sustain a 35-year career at the same place? I mean, any advice there to coaches?
Well, I think I've been lucky in the fact that the guy that hired me, our AD, his name's Mike Wardis, and he was awesome. And we've got a great setup here. You get to work with your junior high kids. You get, I've got 4 classes a day of basketball, and they give you an opportunity to do things the right way. But Mike later became the superintendent of schools actually here, and we've just had great support, great principals. It's a unique place, and like I said, that story of my dad, I just that really hit home with me. There's different guys that do it differently and are very successful and go to different schools, but I just always felt like if they'll still have me around, I just want to plant my feet and kind of try to do it the right way for the right reasons. And it was really rewarding at the state tournament. I'll tell you this: a lot of ex players drove to San Antonio, and it almost brings tears to your eyes. When you got guys who played for you 25 years ago, and are if they can't be there, they're calling you, and that you know that. And I tell everybody, the community, 95% of coaches are this way. We all do it because we love hoops and we love that, but we love kids and we kind of want to give them something. And boy, do they give us a lot. I've learned so much from them, but when you see them come back like that, and the joy they have, you finally made it. And we told all of them, this is for all you guys. We've always had a goal of trying to get down there, and so yeah, it's just a fun deal to be at the same place.
I had a coach tell me that moments like that, when you get the call from former players, you get a text message, even looking at all of those pictures on your wall, like he said, those are coaching paychecks. Like that's when you really feel, something, because I can't imagine. I mean, again, only 16 years in education for me. And I've been at some public schools with guys like Wes Watson that, like you, have been at the same place for a long time. And so the ups and downs are real, the challenges, but those coaching paychecks, man, they're worth it. They really make it worth it. And what we get to do with young people's and be a part of their lives.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
Coach, any idea how many, this is a hard question, how many coaches that you've had come through your program over the years, or at least how many become head coaches or move on like that in the profession?
Well, we had when we first started the school, I had a guy named Barry Stevens. He was with me for 15 years. We've had quite a few. Trevor Johnson, the guy that's with me now, he's been with me for 10 years. Kyle Johnson, Steve Pearson, these guys, some of them became head coaches. Some of them went and got into administration. I've outlasted them all, as far as still going. Some of them have quit, but we've had some great guys helping us, and Jim Kinnear was one. We've had a lot of different guys, but the guys we've got now, Kyle Hewitt's been with us 5 years, but Trevor Johnson 10 years. They're just super, and they're young guys. They're 28 and 32, I think, and so they're like they're to give me energy, and they keep
Yeah.
me grounded, and they're the guys that are the social media and all that. We try to stay up on that, and they help me with that. But we've had a lot of good guys, and we've had some ex players that have gone on to coach that are coaching right now. And one of my favorite guys of all time, Matt Embry, coached up for us at junior high. And he was the Pampa coach, and then Lubbock High. And he got sick about a year and a half ago and passed away. He was on our 2001 team, and he lost his mom when he played. When you're in coaching, there's a lot of things that your average person doesn't realize. You're helping kids through deaths, through things like that. So I don't know how I got off onto that. I'm sorry, man. I rambled a little bit, but
I love it though. I love it and you're right on the money. And the reason I asked that was about the coaches and people. I think when you're in this profession, you just have the opportunity to be around so many great leaders and people that lead in different styles. So I guess my question to you is, what's one quality that you see in great leaders?
Well, I think really the most important thing to me, I think, is vision. You got to have a vision and be able to share that vision. There's a scripture that says where there is no vision, the people will perish. Actually, and I don't know about perishing with this, but if you don't set a vision for these kids and their parents, when we have parent meetings, I don't get up there and chew them out and tell them we're going to do this. Here's 75 rules. I'm more of this is what I want to do. This is where we want to go, and we need your help. And let's like I told you earlier, our vision this year was down by the river. And I think, an interesting thing, another great thing about this school system is we've got our own junior high, and I get to go to that. So I'm around those kids. And in the 7th grade, I'm pulling some of them over there halfway through the season saying, I can see you putting on a uniform in 3 or 4 years, and you're going to be a great player for us. I've got to have you work, to set that. I think that's an important part of leadership that maybe some people overlook. You've got to be an encourager, a builder, not a wrecker. I believe, that's really important as a leader to, we'll get on kids and we'll hold them accountable and stuff like that. But especially those young kids, man, we really try to build them up, get them kind of going at an early age and really where they like it and want to do it. And so having a vision, I think, is really important part of leadership.
I love that. I think that's the difference between being motivational and inspirational. Motivational is just, hey, you're doing great. You're getting better. I can see you improving, and that's fine. And there's moments for that. Inspirational is maybe getting a little bit deeper into their heart, into their soul, and kind of speaking that life into them. And even if it's just around basketball, but then it can, like with you when you get those connections with those younger players, I think you're building such a strong foundation in them. That is really special, and a great reminder for a coach like me that also has access to our junior high to take more advantage of that and not to just skip past that time or get through it. Thank you for that reminder.
Well, you're welcome. I think, a neat thing this year was you got to have 2 ball boys come to the state tournament. They've kind of changed that, and you bring 2. And we took 2 of our 7th grade players that are younger brothers of kids that were on the team. And, we're just trying to build that in them and get a taste where they're sitting under the basket at the state tournament, so they're going back and telling their buddies and, just that vision, that what you want to accomplish. And then, I think they'll come near wanting to play for you if they really know that you're, interested in them and see them doing well. So
that's good. I was trying to guess what word that you might choose as a quality, and I thought maybe for you it would be. I love vision. I thought it might be consistency, because if there's one thing that you're, in my opinion, and I'm not knowing you personally that well at all, but just knowing your career to do what you've done just takes an incredible amount of consistency, not just showing up every day, but how you've shown up every day over the years. And so that's just something I thought.
Yeah, that's nice. I appreciate that. I think you know, there's probably some of that there, or I still wouldn't be here, I guess.
Yeah, true. Unique at the college level is that you get to recruit the guys that sometimes at the high school level, but at the college level, you get to recruit the guys that you want. And sometimes you can choose the players that fit the style that you like. But like you and I that don't recruit that, and you being at the same place over the years, have you kind of trained up your players to fit a style of play that you love, or have you adjusted your style to, and you kind of mentioned a little bit with this year's team being a little bit more athletic, you did make some changes to them, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question, and I think you. I don't think you can just say this is how I coach, and as a high school coach. Now, as a college coach, oh, I think you can say this is how I do things, and this is how I'm going to bring, just like you mentioned, I'm going to bring the players that can do what I want. But we're at a different, as you well know, we're at a different spot, and so after I was a man-to-man disciple until I became the head coach here. In the first year, we ran man-to-man. And I can remember, I can tell you who the starting lineup was: Zach Parker, Scott Neely, Robert Stevenson, Chris Ray, Darby Norman. That 5 guys were starting for us, and we were half court man, and we worked the ball. We ran triple post and got it in, punched it back out. That was us. And as time went on, we had a big team that year. We had 6'6", 6'7" big guys, and we're pretty good team. But uh, as time went on, I started looking and seeing that I felt like we really didn't have as good as athletes as some of the teams that we were going to face, and so we looked at zones, and I actually changed to zone probably the second year, and I ran a zone defense at Randall. We've run zone until last year. We started running some man, and this year, from Christmas on, we ran all man district playoffs. But you know, it was based on, I thought guys we had the size, the quicks to do that better. But I always looked at it, even back then, 30 years ago, what is it going to take to win, to get you to the regional tournament? It was the regional tournament back then. And I didn't think we could line up with the athletes that we have. They were great kids and they were good shooters. We've always been able to shoot. But defensively, I felt like a zone stopped dribble penetration, those athletic teams that you're going to face. So we've maintained that for years. But then when I got these guys, we've gone to press, and man, it's fun. I love fast break basketball. That is what, and even when we ran zone, it was kind of an oxymoron. We would, you know, the game would be kind of slow. That's why I've prayed every year for a shot clock. But the game would slow down on the defensive end, and then when we got it, we're to the other end, and we're firing up a three. Or I like to play fast, but now it's the style that I really like. As a high school player at Monterey, our coach, a good game to him was 36-35, you know, and we passed it into the post, and a guard on that team would look at each other. Are you going to shoot one tonight? Because if you shot it and missed, you were coming out. So you would, that was kind of how I was raised. So as a result of that, I've always liked fast break. I was a Pete Merritt. I love Pete. This shows how old I am. I love
he's
Pete
one of my
Merritt.
favorites. Yeah.
Oh man, every Saturday afternoon I'd sit at home and watch. LSU was on. You know, they only have one game a week back then, but
Yeah.
I'm rambling again. But yeah, I think that I'm not. I think a high school coach, just to say this is how I do it and I will do it that way every time. I've changed offenses. One of the greatest basketball coaches I know on the face of the earth is Joe Lombard, the girls coach at Canyon that won 20 something state championships, and he'd change offenses during the year, even. So I think I just believe you better adapt to your players, and there's some basic principles that I'm going to do no matter what, the way we shoot and the way we do things, but we try to adapt it more to our players and change our offense or defense according to them.
I think that's the secret sauce right there, is that you have your principles, like you said, some concepts that, I mean, really, like for us, when leather touches our fingertips offensively, we are racing and we want to get the ball to dangerous spots. It doesn't really matter what continuity we run. Where the rules are still the same. Can I shoot it? If not, can I move it? If not, I'm going to try to attack the world, or the paint. And so I agree with that. But then where I got into trouble starting out was this idea of system, my system, and even wanting to be known for a system. I think that when that maybe that arrogance or golly, selfishness really starts to creep in, then you can kind of be blind to what you said, which is we need to do what's best for the players we have to be successful. Coach, I'm trying to get there, and I'm trying to be better as I do this more and more.
Oh, you're great, man. You're good. You're good.
Last 3 years ago, I was like you. Coach Thomas was a man-to-man guy. Coach Bliss, in college was a man-to-man guy, and so that's kind of how I grew up. And then with Wes Watson, we started to press a little bit, but I used to think of zones as maybe weak. Maybe that's just not, as a real coach, that's not what you do. 3 years ago, we went to a pressure kind of 3-2 zone here at Faith, and it's been a game changer. But now, Coach, I'm kind of I fell into that trap a little bit again. This is what we do. We don't deviate from that. So how, like you made the change for years to zone back to man. I don't know. How do you do that?
Well, it's just, I think you've got to teach the fundamentals. And as we were I wanted to run man with this group of kids 2 years ago, and we started implementing some breakdown drills, some man-to-man drills, and we're working on our zone every day. But I tricked them, and we're working on, okay, we're going to do it a little differently today. We're going to, we always work close, and we ran the amoeba. That's the zone. So it's a high pressure closeouts, push it to the baseline, just like I wanted to do with man. We fronted the post. We kind of side front now in man, but we just kind of slowly put that in last year and started running some of it. And then this last summer, we ran more of it. I told our summer guy, let's try to run more man. And then we just kept working it. And this year when school started, we spent all of our breakdown time in man-to-man stuff instead of zone, because we could run the zone. They'd do, and what's funny is we go play Faith Family down there at the state tournament. They're so big, and I said we can't man these guys. We're gonna have to zone them. Well, the first play of the game, we missed a shot, and 6'11" rebounds it and dunks it. We're our rebounding in our zone. Our zone, the two guards are going backside. Well, their backside 6'8", 6'11". You can't rebound it. So finally, the second half, we went back to man. But
it made sense. It did make sense to go zone like that. I get that. Let me ask you this: did you when you were running zone, did you run that down through your junior highs and have them start out with it, or did you have them stay in man?
We ran in 7th grade. We started teaching that and ran it, and everybody said, I read, you see it on shows on Twitter all the time. If you teach zone in junior high, you're a sissy, and you're we do zigzag drill, we do all kinds of stuff that a man-to-man coach, closeouts every day. I mean, we do basically a lot of the same shell, everything, but we just made it fit to his zone. So I I just wanted to run it in our system, and through the years we've always run it that way. And now, it's crazy because we deviated back, and this year I had all of our junior high running man. We're kind of we got some different kids right now, and so we're kind of leaning toward that defensively, but we're still running on offense. No matter
Yeah.
what, we want to run and go.
I know what you're talking about, because people talk at the youth level, and sometimes they go up into junior high, but that no zone should be allowed. And you're right, the way that you teach it, and I like to think the way I teach it, it's man-to-man principles, and
Right.
the effort that they give, and the way they have to guard the ball, the way they have to rotate. It's very different from what most people are thinking of, which is you go to watch a third grade game at the local field house and it's just a team standing there like this. And that in practice, they all they were taught was to stand like this.
Yeah.
And the other team's not big enough or strong enough to throw over the top. Like, that's not the same thing as what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're right. And it got me. We went to Albuquerque to the regionals, NCAA regionals. Indiana, Bob and I was in Indiana. This is in the early '90s, and New Mexico State had a really good team. Neil McCarthy was their coach, and he ran the Amoeba. And I sat under the basket at that game, and I watched that pressure they put in that zone and their rotations, and I fell in love with it. I called his staff. And we just went to it then. That's, like I said, that's been 32, 33 years ago, and it's been good to us. But change is good. Change is good. I've always believed that. I don't think you sit in which kind of relates to your question. I don't think you just sit in one thing and say, this is the way I do things, and I will always do it that way. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not the old guy that says, I'm going to do it this way until I die. If you tell me something better right here, I'll go try it right now, man. I'll go try it right now. So,
well, that's incredible, though. That's a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And the danger with fixed mindset is that you do start to become that coach that this is just the way it's always been. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put our head down. We're going to keep going. But my goal is, if I look back, every 5 years, if I look back, I hope that we have added a little bit, tweaked a little bit, not thrown everything out. Like, if it works and it's good, if it's good teaching, stick with it. But as other people grow the game and change, it's wise to have our eyes up and to keep trying to learn new things.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I love the fact that story that you talked about in the 90s of having those teams that continued to get far in playoffs, but they weren't able to take that next step. And that was in the 90s, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was the late 90s, and 2001. We went 34-2 in 2001. We beat Hobbs in the Hobbs tournament. They had Ronald Ross that played at Tech. They had a 36-game winning streak. You don't win in Hobbs. Most people have been to Hobbs, New Mexico, but it's not as big now as it was. But, there's so many Tech players. Tony Benford's, coach at TCU right now with North Texas. Tony Benford, he was Hobbs. All those Hobbs guys. So we went over there and won, and Hereford was in our district, and we beat Hereford both times. And then we beat Fort Worth Dunbar in the semifinals. They were number 1 in the state, and they had a guy named Lance Jackson. Stephen Thomas played at UTA. They were really good, and we beat them in the semifinals. And the next day we played Hereford, and they beat us. And that was probably as painful a loss as we've ever had. And that was the 4th straight year we'd gotten beat in the regional finals. So, it really challenges you why you're in this business when when you do that and you put so much into it and you see kids bawling and saying, we dreamed and it couldn't, there's a lot of things. Some of those same kids, Matt, the guy that passed away was one of those players, and he became a great coach. And the other guys, there was three of those guys that were down in San Antonio. Two of them, one of them's a professor at A&M, one of them's a banker in Houston, and they all, it's what makes it fun. The losses, when you put me down, I hope they're not going to say Broadhurst had so many wins and this is why he was a good guy. They're going to, hopefully say, well, he was nice to people, or something like that. That's hopefully what we're all doing this for. And I think, like I said, I think 95% of coaches are in it that way. So
that's been my experience, is that majority of guys are not in this for the money and are in it to help kids. But then the fun part is that we get to work with kids and see them improve. But then, as competitive people, we still get to compete. I'll never forget. Wow, I haven't thought about this story in a long time. Coach Bliss, we're at Kansas playing, and halftime, I mean, we weren't nearly as good as Kansas was that year, and we were young, but we were in the game, Coach. And halftime, he comes in, he's fiery. And, man, he slams the locker with his hand. And it wasn't out of anger. He was so pumped up. His hand's shaking because of what he's just done to it. But then as we're walking out, he kind of is next to me. He goes, Matt, this is how I still get to compete.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, that's it. So, but when your teams and players go through those hard times, what do you do to kind of build that confidence back up? Or even throughout the season, when you see their confidence going up and down, how do you help build it?
Well, I think, like after a loss, after we lose a game, I'll go in there, and I don't believe that you sit in there and talk for the guys that keep them for 20 minutes to 30 minutes. I think Danny Henderson, one of my good friends, told me this a few years ago. After 2 minutes, Broadhurst, they're not listening to you anyway. So just shut it down, and I've really tried to work on that. Now they'll listen to some stories, but as far as me just chewing them out, it doesn't, I don't think that's really the answer. I think something that we try to do after a loss is say, here's one or two things, and then ask the players, hey, tell me two things we did good tonight, and then tell me two things we need to work on tonight after tonight's game. And then we try to focus on that. Well, these two things, and we make the kids tell us, these are two things. Even though we lost, look at what we did in rebounding, Coach. We won the rebounding battle, or whatever. And then they'll tell you, turnovers, or we didn't shoot it that well, or we weren't ready, or whatever. And so we're trying to fix that immediately with them having input, not just me in there screaming at them, telling them you didn't do this, you didn't do that. I think it's better if you kind of involve them in that process.
I love that. And that's a valuable tool. Great reminder by Danny Henderson. I had the pleasure of getting to have one of these hoops talks with him. Guys like you and him, when I'm sitting there listening, I just feel completely unqualified to be on the to be on the call. But no, that's a great reminder. And a guy named Tyler Costin, who is just a really, his basketball mind is incredible. I was able to meet him through PGC, and his advice was to completely do away with post-game talks for the very reasons that you said. You bring them together, you say thank you, you break, and let them go. He says let them go eat pizza because they're not listening. But I do love that idea of asking them what were two good things that they did well, get them focused on the positives, and then ask them two things. What those questions do, though, assuming it's not effort, right? Because if effort's the problem, well, then you don't have a basketball problem as much as a culture problem. And that culture problem really needed to happen months and months ago. And so you're in a tough spot then. But you take the emotion out of a loss. with
Right.
here's a game plan. And guys, because if we're just on a process to keep improving every day, this is just the next step. What can we do better? Here it is. I love you. Let's get out of here. And that's a great way to look at it, Coach.
Well, thanks. Yeah. It's been good. We've gained more out of that than we have me in there. And, as a younger coach, I think I'd go in there and Dave Bliss hit the chalkboard in my hand for the wrong reason. What are you guys doing? And that Danny's very intelligent, great coach. I think one of the greatest coaches in our sport. And when he talks to me, I listen. So that's helped me a little bit. Now the kids, don't go show this to the kids because they'll say, "Coach, you still talk too long."
That's a lie.
Yeah, but I really try to keep it in 2 minutes, man.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I love the fact that you chose the social media question, because I do think as coaches now, I mean, unless your program is blessed to have, or your school, and some of these bigger high schools now, they're even at high school level, they're starting to have social media people like hired for their school and to do, because it is such a big part of our players' lives and ways that we can celebrate them and let people know about the cool things happening in our program. But in what ways do you use social media to enhance your program?
Well, I mentioned earlier Trevor Johnson, the guy that's been with us for 10 years. He came, worked at the junior high with us for 2 years, and then we moved him up, and he's been with me for 8. And he is a genius on social media. I am not a genius, but I can tweet. I love watching every morning. I'll get on there when I get to school and kind of check out. And some of that stuff they put on there is trash, but try to eliminate some of that. But the people I want to follow and the things I follow, and we've got a Randall basketball that people follow, and he is constantly updating that. I mean, after games, we've got pictures. We've even had now this last year we should have, but we've had a student manager who is in charge of just tweeting out and he sits on the bench with his phone and puts pictures and puts score at halftime, we're really trying to do that. And some people say, well, that's you don't need to do that. I'll tell you this. Now, I don't know how it is with you. The Dallas Morning News, I used to love the Dallas Morning News. It even came to Amarillo, and I would go get it, especially during basketball season. Somehow they had it in the paper in Amarillo the next morning. Well, our poor newspaper is non-existent now up here as far as coverage, and so you got to cover a lot of it yourself or get it through a local social media guy that we have here, Press Pass Sports. They're awesome, and we're constantly sending them stuff. I just think it's wise, that deal that I told you, when I get a junior high kid and tell him, I can see you doing this. They see that, they watch that. A 7th grader gets on there and looks at that, and if we're building it up and showing them what we're doing, I think that leads to motivation. And so you can either get on the train or get off, but if you want to go the right direction in our society today, you better jump on there and try to get on that thing. And it's not really me. I'm not very good, but I'm fortunate to have good guys working that do what I ask them to do.
Well, I think that's a great sign of leadership. It's not that you have all the skills or possess the knowledge, but you empower others that do have that to do the work. And I think you're right on the money with the social media thing. It's a part of not just culture as a whole, but your programs. And, I've always felt like for years, like I wish more parents would come to practices. I wish they could be a part of some of the meetings that we have as a team to see and feel, just in my opinion, how special this is.
Yeah.
But they can't. They can't be there all the time. But social media is a way where we can let people in that invisible door, right? And see a little bit more. And so And if you just got to watch these colleges, whatever they're doing to bring excitement to the program, to get people pumped about their brand, right? We should be doing that the best we can.
Right. I agree totally. And, my Red Raiders, I got my Texas Tech. I went to Tech and, their games. And Chris Beard, man, he turned that thing around with how he promoted and then did the same at Texas. He'll do it at Ole Miss, I know.
Yep.
But I think Coach McCasland will come in and
I was going to ask you, what do you think about your new coach?
I think that's a great hire. I know he's
a
good man. One of your Bears. My wife went to Baylor. She was a volleyball player at Baylor. She graduated. In fact, she's 10 years. She graduated from Baylor in 93. So she played from 89 to 93. And she's all about we go to, I wear Tech, she wears Baylor, but he's kind of now.
She's a good person, Coach. Well done. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. So we're excited. I think he'll do well. And man, what a job he's done down there in North Texas. It's been
everywhere
amazing.
He's been. And I love going to TABC. I like the court sessions. My favorite is the kind of more of the classroom session where you get these guys with, a whiteboard or the PowerPoint now, whatever, talking about their different things, their culture, practices, and things. One of my favorite sessions I've ever been to was his that he did up in one of those rooms at TABC, and I just can't wait to see what he does there.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Over the years, you coach long enough, you have some tough losses. And how do you handle defeat with your team?
Well, I think first of all, I'm real. I'm an emotional guy. I mean, you take me to I'm not scared to tell you this. If I go to a movie and it is just one of those tear jerkers, you'll see tears coming down my eye.
Coach, you're secure, man. You're secure.
Yeah, I am who I am, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to watch me cry. so it's not boohoo, but my wife will tell me I'll cry more before she will a lot of times. But it leads now. Don't think that I'm just crying after every loss and all that. But I think they're really tough losses that you be who you are. It hurts you. And I tell those kids, you get up and get in the huddle and hug each other, and you've been there, you love each other, and this is why we're a team, because it's tough on all of us, and we've got to help each other and pull us through it. And there's another day. We're gonna get up and we're gonna do good things, and we're gonna have more opportunities. But man, I think you just you don't try to be the old cowboy and tough guy, and don't you worry, but just shut up and go in there. And, I think I don't know. I just think you be real with kids and let them see you be vulnerable and let them see you. And I'm the first one to tell our guys that, that was my fault. I messed you around. This is not yours. That game was mine. I didn't have you prepared. Or I think if I was saying something to young coaches, that's something I would tell them. Do not be scared to be real and tell them, hey, I could have done better. Don't just always point a finger at the players, because we all know as coaches, there's times where we mess up, we make mistakes, and so I guess that's an important part of it too. After a defeat, is to be able to, if I had something to do with it, I'll tell them, I shouldn't have done that. But hey, we all in this together, guys. And I don't think anybody ever, you're not pointing the finger at any of those kids right after a tough loss and defeat. you're
Guys, we would have won this if not for Johnny.
Yeah. Johnny, you make your shot. We're
Yeah.
in, you know. But I just think be real, and if it hurts, let it hurt, man, and
Yeah.
then we'll get over it together.
Coach Thomas was great at that. He could be fiery and obviously funny. If anybody's ever talked to him, you just don't laugh. You don't laugh as much as you do around him. But he had that ability to show us that type of vulnerability, which is, I mean, so many times the natural tendency is to act like we know everything. Act like we have all the answers. Act like, hey, don't worry, guys. Like, I'm not going to make mistakes. I got this. But to your point, it's what a great way to teach them, a healthy way to show emotion and to take ownership of things when it doesn't go right.
Yeah. I think that's important.
Were you always like that? Oh yeah, Coach T.
If I saw him right now, I'd hug that big guy, and I used to call him Little Ricky Majerus.
Coach Majerus came to one of our banquets back in the day, and he was our guest. How about that? Not many high schools get Coach Majerus at your. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, golly, they could be brothers. They could be.
I know they were great friends. Became great friends, and I haven't seen Tommy in a little while, but man, what a great guy you played for. I know that was a great experience.
Let me ask you this: have you always been that way? Though your ability to show that with your teams, and especially after defeat, or is that something that you grew into as your career went forward?
I think that's just kind of my personality. I think, I've just always tried to be an open book, and not try to hide anything. That I am who I am, and I love all you guys. And when you hurt, I hurt, and hopefully for most of them, when I hurt, they hurt. It's I think then that's a team. When you've got that, then you feel like as a coach that, man, these guys are with me, I'm with them, and we're gonna, the wins and losses will take care of themselves. But this team we had this year it was so close knit, so it was just the greatest experience. And everybody talks about the journey, and we all give illustrations, get on the bus with us, and we're doing all that. But actually, it was so awesome to be able to experience all these things that we were able to do. And I've kind of just always been that way, for good or bad, I guess. I knew I wanted to coach when I was 6 years old. My dad was a preacher and would take me to sporting events, and man, when I was 4 and 5, I'd go with every Friday night to a football game, or Tuesday and Friday to basketball. And I knew that I wasn't going to be a great athlete. I was a walk-on player at Hardin Simmons, and then I didn't play much. I was on the team for a couple of years, and then went to Tech and just went to school and finished there. But I knew that, what we talked about earlier, that competitiveness. My dad was a very competitive man and loved competition, and he instilled that in me at a young age. And I remember he and I in a car driving to one of those games one night. We're talking about it, and I said, I wish I could be a pro. I wish I could play in college. He goes, well, it might happen, but Les, probably it's not, but it could. Dream it, And I go, well, I gotta have some of this stuff. I want to do this forever. He goes, well, you could be a coach. You could be one of the guys. And so then I started really watching the coaches, at 5, 6 years old, and the impact they had and what they did. And I said, I was one of those kids in elementary school when they say, do you know what you want to do? I was the first one to raise my hand. I know what I want to do. And I've never veered away from that. I've been a lucky guy. I get to do this job. This is year 41,
Yeah.
and it's been just an awesome experience. It's been a lot of good blessings for me. So,
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. 41 years. I love getting to this, ask this question to anybody, no matter how long they've been coaching, but I can't wait. What would you do differently if you could start over in coaching?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. You're going to think I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything at all, but I really think the way I started and the way this has happened, I think it's a, a good a good thing to tell young coaches. I was lucky enough out of college to get my first job was an assistant at Lubbock High School, and a guy named Larry Christian hired me. And when we won the regional tournament a few weeks ago, Larry Christian was down there hugging me. The guy that hired me gave me my first job, was able to be there, and my JV coach at Monterey, Rob Knight, was there. I'm hugging those guys after the game. It was awesome start, and I got to be around some really good coaches. And then I went to Borger as an assistant and worked for a guy named Dwayne Hunt, who was one of the finest men on earth. He got out of coaching and went into work for Larry Jones Ministries. And he's 81, 82, and he still goes overseas and does mission work.
Oh, wow.
And works with pastors and stuff. So I got to work with him for 3 years, and I learned probably more than anything from those 3 years with him. And so I think this deal about, even if you're a junior high coach, I would encourage you just to work and listen. I think too many times we don't want to listen because we've got all the answers, and I'm guilty of that myself sometimes. But listen and learn. And so I had an experience there with those two guys that really molded me. And then I got a job at Morton 1 year at Morton. The guy at Randall who was going to hire for this brand new school, I knew Mike Wardis was the AD I mentioned earlier. And he said, "You're not going to get that job with until you have head coaching experience." I said, "Well, what if I go get a head coaching job?" "Well, if you do well, I'll give you an interview." So I went to Morton. We got to the regional tournament, and then I'll tell you, this is kind of funny. I got this job, and I called him once every 4 to 5 days for probably 4 months, and just browbeat. I just want you to know I want that job. There's no one you can hire that wants that job worse than me.
Wow.
I will do more. I'll work harder than anybody. All right, have a good day, Mike. And I just keep, and I was kind of, maybe that backfires on me because it's annoying. But finally, it got to a point where he basically said, "If you'll just leave me alone, I'll get you the job." It's kind of funny, but I can remember him calling me and telling me I had the job, and he said, "But Les, I wouldn't take it." I said, "Why would you not take it?" He said, "There were only 5 school board members there, and 2 voted for you. One voted against, and 2 abstained." And they said, "So I wouldn't come with that." I said, "That doesn't bother me. Just give me a chance." And one of the guy that voted against me, actually became one of my good friends. His son played for me, and you never know. The good Lord is in charge, and I believe that with all my heart. You just do the best you can, and in this profession, I think it's wise to, some guys do really well just taking a head job right at the beginning. I don't think I would have been that good doing that, but the way I did it, and I've got young assistants, and I tell them, we're trying to teach you, and you're trying to teach me some things. And then when you get your chance, hopefully you've been through it before. But I was fortunate to have good coaches, good high school, good college coach, and learned a lot. And then so I was lucky. I kind of just lucked into some stuff, and then when I got this thing, they hadn't been able to get rid of me yet. So
well, you and I don't believe in luck, but I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that whenever I get to ask that question, I'm never gonna tell them they're right or wrong with what they say. It's their answer, but to me, there is a right way of. I mean, obviously, there's little tiny things in my past, in my 20s, the way that I lived. I would love to change some of those things, but at the same time, I'm sitting here today with you. And the reason I'm sitting here today with you is because of all of those experiences and the way that this life has kind of moved. And so the answer is like, no, I wouldn't change anything or do anything differently and I would imagine you feel that way too, based on kind of your answer there. But I appreciate you, just kind of taking me through some of those times and the way that you got here. That's incredible.
Well, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you having me on. I respect you a lot, and everybody knows who you are and what you do for this great sport and the man you are. And I just thank you that I'm getting to share with you a little bit. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Coach, we're not done yet. I got to do the speed round. Okay. So
right.
don't hang up on me. All right.
Okay.
First thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out. Ready? Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate chip cookie dough.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Pete Maravich.
Yes. Let's go. Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
Texting or talking?
It's getting to be texting.
It's so easy. Well, okay. I like the answer. It depends on who it is. If my mom wants to talk to me, I better call her.
Yeah.
She's getting better though. She's getting better. But players, man, you want a quick response. Yeah. You just
right.
We've already discussed shot clock or no shot clock. I know where you line up there. Our friend Tommy Brackle's working hard, man. He's working hard.
Tell him to keep going.
Yeah. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Okay. Up 3 on defense, 7 seconds left. Foul or no foul?
Foul.
Always been that way?
No, not always. Not always. And it's just been actually the last 3 or 4 years that I've kind of done that. We practice that, like everybody. We've practiced that, and I was never that way before, but for some reason I saw Kansas do it one game. Bill Self did it, and Bill Self, he knows some basketball,
Yeah, it is wise. It is wise to, especially like tournament time when you're getting to watch all these games. I mean, look for patterns. Like look for things that because you're right. You're right. I mean, the analytics part. It's you can't just ignore all that. And these guys know. These guys know what's gonna. Yeah. When there's that much money involved, they know what leads to winning. That's good.
Yeah.
What book would you give somebody?
Probably when I think of a coach, they call me Coach John Wooden. I think that's my favorite coaching book, and I read it when I first started, and I got it, and I kind of glance over it usually every year right before the season.
That's good. Your favorite place to travel?
The mountains. Used to be beach. Now I'm old. I like the mountains more.
No more swimsuit. And I just
no, we don't want
that. Last one. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0. I don't drink coffee.
Man, there are so many coaches that don't drink coffee, and then I just working for Wes Watson. He just taught me that if you want to be a head coach, you drink your coffee black, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, I'm not tough enough to do that. I drink tea now. We've got these tea places out here in Amarillo that I love this water still iced tea. I'll drink half and half coconut tea. More, but
Coach,
coffee.
I don't judge you for that. I don't judge you.
All right.
I hope you know this has just been such an honor for me to have this time with you. And I just want to thank you. As somebody that does love the profession, I love to what we get to do and to watch coaches like yourself. I mean, you're just somebody that I look up to. So I want to thank you for 41 faithful years and all of the things that you've done in players' lives outside of basketball. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, man. And again, like I said, I appreciate you and what you do. So thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.